Hello guys, welcome to QA Automation Hub. So in today's video, let's see what are data types in Java and what are the types of primitive data types in Java, difference between primitive and non-primitive data types, and I will explain each primitive data types in detail. And let's finally see what is an implicit and explicit typecasting. So before going into data types, let's see what is a variable. Okay, so a variable is a reserved location in Java memory to hold a data. So when you create or initialize a variable, it will have a reserved location in your Java memory, and the data which you are assigning to that variable will get mapped in this Java memory. Okay, so let's see here below some data format which a variable can store in primitive data type. I will tell you what is a primitive and non-primitive later. Now let's see. These are the some data formats. One is for the first one is numeric, and you can see you can store a value like 20,000, 10,000 without a decimal point. So that is called as an numeric data format. And the second one is floating type. So floating type is nothing but a decimal value. Okay, and you will have a fractional part after this. So this is fractional part, and after a decimal point you will have some values. So that is called floating type data format. And the third one is character. So character is single character, any single character you can store it. So for that also you have a primitive data type, and you can store any value like a t or something, and here dollar or percentage, any values you can store in this data type. And the fourth one is condition format, where you can store true or false to this data type. Okay, so these are the four things, main things, that you can store it in a primitive data type. And what are those primitive data types? So that let me explain you. And before that, let's create a simple variable here. Okay, so I told variable, right? How to initialize a variable? Just give any value, say for example my salary, and I'm giving the salary as 50,000. So this is something like, I have created a variable as my salary, and the respective value which I have assigned to this variable is 50,000. So this will get stored in the Java memory now. Okay, so for this one, if you are directly assigning this variable, let's see what happens. I'll create a simple method here. uh, so just I will copy paste this. So now I'm creating a variable as my salary with an numeric value 50,000. So for this, it will throw an error because it does not have any data type. So for example, it is a numeric value, right? So some data type from the numeric family you have to give it, like integer is a numeric data type, and if you give that, see the error has been gone now. So some data type you have to specify before any variable. Now let's see what are the primitive data types. Okay, as I said, the types of data types are primitive on non-primitive or reference data types. So first let's see what is a primitive data types. These are some predefined data types in Java programming, something like byte, char, int, short, long. So these eight data types, right? Those are primitive data types, and it is predefined by the Java programming language itself. But non-primitive or user-defined data types. Okay, so I will explain this in detail. Here is the classification for the data types, and mainly it is divided into two. One is primitive and the other one is non-primitive. So under primitive, you have four classifications. They are integral, floating type, character, and boolean. And all these primitive data types are predefined in Java, and they have their own sizes and range. So based on the size of the value that you want to store, you can choose the data type under these four classifications. Okay. So integral means if you want to store a numeric value to a variable, then you can assign that variable, you can initialize that variable with this data types that are available under the integral. Okay, any byte, short, int, and long. So based on the size of that value, you can choose the data type. And under floating, you have a floating type, you have float and double. So if you want to store a decimal value, then you can choose the data types that are available under the floating type. Okay, if you want to store a single character, then you can choose the char data type. And if it is a condition based, say for true or false, then you can choose store that uh, variable with the data type boolean. Okay, and this non-primitive or reference are string, arrays, classes, objects, interfaces. So those are called as a non-primitive data types, and we will see the difference between the primitive and non-primitive now. Below are the difference between the primitive and non-primitive data types, and under primitive data types, the first point is they are predefined in Java. So all this integer, long, double, float, boolean, so everything are predefined in Java. Okay, and this non-primitive data types or reference data types are created by the programmer, and it is called as an user-defined data types. And all these classes, strings, arrays, objects, interfaces, those are created by the programmer itself. Okay, and the second point, both variable and values are stored inside the stack memory when they are set locally. Okay, so when you create it as a local variable, both the variable and the values will get stored inside the stack memory. Whereas in the non-primitive or reference data types, the reference variable is getting stored inside the stack, and the original object values will get stored inside the heap under the object itself. Okay, so we will see what is the difference between stack and heap now. So this is a simple representation of the Java memory. In real, it looks different and it has many memory spaces, and the structure itself it looks different. But for an example, I have divided this into three parts. One is code, stack, and heap. And under code, you can see we have a class called class name and with the static void main method. And now I'm going to create a method here with the primitive data types. Okay, so I have created a variable a with integer data type, and I have assigned the value as 100, and I'm creating another variable as b, same with integer data type, and I'm assigning this a value to this b. Now this b value becomes 100. Okay, so I'm just copying this value of a to this b. So this is with primitive data type, and now let us create an variable with non-primitive data types. So this is an integer array, and we have creating a variable as c, and that has a value like 10, 20, 30, and 40, and this will get stored inside the index. Okay, so this array concept we will see it later, but just to show a difference between the primitive and non-primitive, I'm creating an integer array here, and I have assigned four values inside this array. Okay, and I created another integer array called d. I'm just copying this value of c inside the d. So now the d also has four values: 10, 20, 30, and 40. Okay, and now let us create an object for this class. So inside this static void main method, I have created an object for this class, and I'm just calling this method 1. So when we run this program, the class loads, and first the main method will get created in the stack frame, and then the class objects gets whatever the object we created, right, that gets created in the heap memory. Okay, and then it will call the method 1. We are calling the method 1 from using this object, right, so it gets stored above the main method in the stack memory. And here you can see the local variables that we have created. So when you create a variable inside this method, right, so that is called as a local variable. So this variable types concept, we will see it in future tutorials. For now, if a variable is created inside a method, that is called as a local variable. Okay, and here you can see the int a. So the variables and values, I said, as I said, it is getting stored inside the stack memory here. Okay, inside this method you can see a equal to 100, and here b equal to a, so b is also 100, and that also gets stored inside the stack memory. So both variable and the value gets stored inside the stack memory. Okay, so that's the second point we saw. And here in the non-primitive you can see the c and d references will get stored inside the stack memory, but the value 10, 20, 30, and 40 will get stored in the heap memory. Okay, and both this c and d will get pointed to this space. Okay, so this index that is being created for this integer array, right, so both the reference c and d, because d is copied with the c value, so both this reference will get pointed to this integer array. Okay, and this is the second point we have seen. And now let's see what is the third point. So in the third point, you can see two different variables created along with different assignments. So we have created a variable a, and we have assigned with value as 100, and we have created another value as b, and we have assigned the value of a to b, right? And in the stack memory, you can see both a and b has been created in the stack memory with different variables, and the assignments also made separately. To a it is assigned as 100, and to b it is assigned as 100, right? But whereas in the non-primitive, you can see it creates only the reference variables in the stack memory, and both are pointing to the same object in the heap memory. Now let's try to change the value of b here. Okay, so in the class, here I'm going to change the value of b to 200. Okay, so now the value of a is 100, value of b is 200, right? So now what will happen in the stack memory? You can see the value of b will get assigned to 200. Okay, and the value of a will remains as 100. So this is the difference between primitive and non-primitive. Okay, and here in the non-primitive section, if I change the index, maybe the first index, right, to some value using the uh, d reference. Okay, and I am changing the value of the first index to 200. So now what will happen is, in the object in the heap memory, it will get assigned to both reference c and d. Okay, so now the c will also have this value 10, 200, 30, and 40, and the d will also have the, and the d integer array also will have the same value 10, 200, 30, and 40. So here, since it is pointing to the same object, when copied, so it is getting changed for both the integer array c and d. Okay, but whereas since primitive, it creates a different variables in the stack memory, and the assignments are separately assigned to those variables. When you change the value of b, it gets reflected only in the b variable, and a remains to be in 100, right? So we will see an demo for this one. Okay, so I have created a simple method as demo difference. So let's see the same thing which I have mentioned there, right? First, we will initialize a primitive data type. This is the variable a with integer data type, and I'm giving the value as 100. And I'm creating another primitive data type here, b, and I'm assigning the a value to it. So now the b value is also changed to 100, correct? And now I will create an integer array c equal to 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, so this is c form of creating an array. Okay, and let's create another array d, and let's assign this c value to it. Okay, so it will have a common object in the heap memory now. And now quickly we will print all these values. Okay, value of a is, and let's print the other values also. So value of b, I'm printing it here, and the value of c, it's an array, right? So let's print the whole index, whatever it is updated. So arrays dot to string. So these things we will see it later, just for a demo purpose how to print. Okay, so for a more clarity whether the values are coming in array or not. So for that I'm just creating it here, and you can see. All right, so I have called this method in the static main method, and let's print this now. And you can see the value of a is 100 and the value of b is 100, because a is assigned to the b variable, and so it gives the same value. And now c, it is assigned with this value, so all this index of that array is getting displayed, and c is now pointed to d variable. Okay, so for the d integer array, and the same value is getting displayed here. So now let's change the value of b to 200, and we'll change the first index of the d integer array to some 300. Okay, now let's run this program, and here you can see the value of a still remains as 100, and the value of b, when it comes here it is 100, and here we are reassigning it to 200, so it got changed. But you can see it is not changing the value of a. So that's what primitive data types, it will not change the value because it is getting stored in the stack memory and it has its own reserved location. So this will not get changed here. But the value of c, you can see the reserved variables c and d will be in stack memory, but this objects will point to the same heap memory, right? So when I change the first index of d to 300, it got changed for C as well. The fourth point is primitive data types do not have null as default value. So if you are setting it as a local variable, right? So the primitive data types, either it can be integer, it cannot have a null value as default value. Integer will have the default value as 0 and boolean will have the default value as false, and it will not have the default value as null. Okay. Whereas in the non-primitive, all the strings arrays will have the default value as null. Okay, so that is one difference that we have with primitive and non-primitive. And the fifth point is the sizes and ranges are predefined in Java. So for all integer, byte, short, double, boolean, everything will have their own sizes and ranges. Okay, so based on the sizes, you can assign the values to that data type. So those are predefined in Java, and here the sizes and ranges can vary based on the programmer input. So you can grow an array, you can reduce an array. So everything you have collection strings. So based on your input, the sizes and ranges can vary. That is for the non-primitive or reference data types. But in primitive, the sizes and ranges are predefined, and if you exit that one, it will throw an error and it will ask you to change to the appropriate data type. Okay, so this is, we will see with an example now. Let's create another variable as C, and this is a primitive data type, and another non-primitive array. Let's create as F. Okay, so let us print this value now for E, and for F we'll put another print statement. So both are throwing an error, and here you can see we have to initialize as 0 for primitive. It will not be default, it will not be null. So that is also one point which we have seen in the difference. And here you can see by default it is setting it as null for the non-primitive data types. Okay, and I'm running this program here, and here you can see for the primitive it shows as 0, and for the non-primitive it is showing as null. Okay, so that's it with the demo for the difference between primitive and non-primitive data types. And now let's see all this primitive data types, what are the sizes and ranges, and how it needs to be defined in your programming. Okay, thank you. Okay, first let's see the byte data type and the sizes for this byte data type. So this is from a numeric family, right? The size for the byte data type is 8 bits, which is equal to 1 byte. So I think you guys know about the units of measurements, right? So 8 bits equal to 1 byte, and 1024 bytes equal to 1 kilobyte KB. 1024 KB is equal to 1 MB, and 1024 MB equal to 1 GB. So this is how we classify our hard disk and RAM also, right, in our phone or system. So we used to say 120 hard disk, 120 GB hard disk we have, and 4 MB RAM we are having in our mobile. So similar, the same kind of units of measurements, Java also allocates for its primitive data types. Okay, so the size of this primitive data type byte is 1 byte. Okay, this much space will be allocated in the Java memory, and the range is between minus 127 to 127. So how to create a byte data type? Just give a byte value to any variable name. First you need to give the data type, and then you have to give the variable name, and then let's give the last range. Okay, and let's print this out. Value of byte is, I'm just printing this value here. Let's print this. You can see it will get printed. Okay, so it allows to store till this range, minus 127 to 127. So if you are changing this value to 128, then it will throw an error and it is asking you to change the data type to int. Okay, you can give it a short also, because short also allows this range. So if it exits this range, then you cannot store that value inside this byte data type. Okay, and for byte you can give a single character also, it will accept, but when you run this program it will only give the integer value. Okay, so from where it is giving this 84, it is coming from the Unicode values. Okay, so you can see for T the decimal value is 84. Okay, so from here it is getting printed. So if you give as Q, then it should print at 81. Can we check that one? Okay, let us run this, and I think it printed as 81. So this comes from this value. Okay, so if you want to store a very small numeric value, and if that ranges falls between this, then you can store the numeric value in this byte data type. Okay, so now let's see the second numeric data type, which is short. Okay, so for short, the size allocated by the Java is 16 bits, which is 16 by 8. So 8 bits equal to 1 byte, right? So 16 bits means it is 2 bytes of space is being allocated in Java memory if you are using this short primitive data type. And here you can see the range. This is the range, and I have created a variable with short data type. And now let me print this. Let me assign this last range value itself, and we will run this program. You can see it is printing. If you give more than this range, the same thing, it will ask you to change the data type to integer, which is the next one, because integer can integer will have this range. Okay, so but here it exits, so it is throwing an error. So now, for example, if you want to store 40,000 or something, it will still throw an error because it exits the range. If you change to int, it will accept. Okay, so you have to give the data type based on the range that are allocated by Java. And now let's see the int data type. Okay, so for integer data type, if the size in Java allocated by Java is 32 bits, and if you divide, you can see the 4 bytes of space it will take if you are assigning a variable with integer data type, and the range is between this value. Okay, so this time let's try with an negative value. So here you can see it allows, right? So if you try to print, so it should be between this range. Okay, it allows, and when you are trying to change, it will throw an error, and then you need to change it to the next data type which has an higher range, that is long. Okay, so for example, if you have an account number or something, right? So that will have a very big value. So that will not come under this short because it exists at that time. You can store it with an integer data type if you want to store it as a numeric value. So now if you print also, it will not throw any error and it will get printed. So this is because between this range, right? And now let's see what is the last data type in numeric family. It's long. Okay, so long, you can see here, it has some values ranges between this. Okay, let's remove all this comma. So between this range, it should be okay. And here you can see the size is around 64 bits, which is equal to 8 bytes. So this much space it will take if you are assigning a variable with this long data type. And if say for example, if you are giving some credit card number, that will be huge, right? At that time, you can just give long as the data type, and here it will throw an error because for long you have to give the literal at the last. Literal is nothing but after the numeric value you have to put it as L. Okay, only if you give this it will accept. So if it is a very long numeric value, then you can use this long data type and you can see it is printed here. Okay, so that's it with this integral part, and now let's move to the floating type. So the next floating type is float variable, sorry, float data type, that we will see now. So for float, the size is 32 bits, and it takes around 4 bytes of memory space. And here it allows to store fractional numbers, which is the decimal value, and sufficient for storing 6 to 7 decimal digits. Okay, but it is based on the digits before the decimal point. Say for example, we are storing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Okay, here also you have to give the literal as f. Okay, otherwise it will take it as a double value, so it will ask you to change the data type to double. So if you give it as f, then it will take it as a float float data type. Okay, so now let's print this. So you can see it printed all the values, right? So if I'm giving some extra value, it will remove that last value and it will only print till this one. Okay, so if I'm adding some more value here, like I have added three values before the decimal point, and now let's try to execute, and you can see it printed only this till this 6, and it removed. So it based on this digits before decimal point also. Okay, and the next floating point sorry, floating type data type is double. All right, first, so for double, the size is 64 bits, and it takes around 8 bytes of Java memory space when you are using the double as the data type for any variable. And here you can see it is also allowing you to store a floating point like decimal value, and it is sufficient for storing 15 decimal points. Okay, so let's try with this. Okay, and here you can see it does not ask for the literal because it's a double data type. Okay, and let's print this one, and it has printed everything, right? So you can see here. So if you are changing the value here, then it will restrict inner to float. You can see it printed till this, and it removed all these three values here. Okay, so this is something like if you want to store more values after the decimal point, then you have to go for a double. If it is less than some 6 digits, then you can choose float data. Sorry, yeah, float data type. Okay, and now the next one is yeah, character. Yeah, so for character data type, the size is 16 bits, which is equal to 2 bytes, and the range is between you can store any single character, and also it represents the ASCII values of 0 to 255. So I will tell you what is that. So if you want to print any character, right, like say T, and let me execute it, and you can see the character value is printed now. And if you are giving a small alphabet also, it will print it out. So it should be a single character. Okay, if you give any two characters, then it will throw an error. Okay, and let's give the value as 255 now. And it has printed as y, right? So let's go here. Let's see the corresponding glyph value of 255. So this is y, right? So this is what it has printed. So in case if you want to print okay, access any kind of characters like dollar or something, then you can just give this decimal value as 36, or you can give this Unicode also. Okay, so let's try that. Say for example, I'm giving 36 here, and I'm running it. So it printed the dollar symbol. Otherwise you have to give the Unicode, right? So how to give Unicode? Inside single quotes 0024. Okay, so this is how you represent an Unicode in coding. So here you can see 0024 for dollar, correct? So now I have given that, and let's print it now. And here you can see the character values printed properly, right? The last one is the Boolean data type. Okay, so for Boolean, the size is just 1 bit, and it stores the value as true or false. Okay, so this is mostly used when you are using a condition in your programming code, and you can see here it throws an error if how to initialize. So by default, the Boolean value will be false, and if you want to set it as true, explicitly give it as true. And when you run this, you can see the value has been printed properly. Okay, so this is for boolean. You have to specify the data type as boolean. Okay, so similarly for char, this is the data type, and this is how you initialize a variable with a value and the data type appropriately. You have to give it. Okay, so if the values ranges between these things, so you have to be make sure the ranges. If it is accepting for short, then you can give short. If it is fine with byte, then you can go with byte itself. If it is an very big numeric value like credit card or something that you want to store in a variable, then you can go for a long. So you have to choose the data type properly based on your value that is getting stored to that variable. Okay, so that's it with the data types explanation. Now let's go and see what is implicit and explicit typecasting. Okay, so let me create a method, separate method for explaining the implicit and explicit typecasting. Okay, and okay, so now let's create a short data type. Okay, say short value. It's a variable name, and now here I'm giving the value as 35,000. So which is inside the range of an okay, it exits. I will give it as 30,000, which is inside the range of this short data type, right? And now let's create an integer value here, and if I assign this short value here, what happens? Okay, so it will not throw any error because this value it's between this range also. Okay, so it will not throw any error and it will accept it. And now let's create another value as long, and if I am assigning this integer value here, it will accept. If I give some value like 45,000, which is between the range of the integer data type, then also it will not throw any error, right? So similarly, I'm creating an variable as float. Float value equals so this is between the, and you have to give the literal. Okay, now let's create an double variable here. Double value equal to this float value, so it will not throw any error and it will accept. Okay, so now let's print all these values. Okay, so let me print the integer value first, int value, and let me print the long value. What's the long value? It should be 45,000, correct? And let me print the double value also. Okay, let me check whether I have changed the method. No, so let me change it, and now if you run the program, so you can see it will do the implicit casting. Okay, because the short value which is assigned, it's between this integer range, so it will not throw any error. Similarly, if you are assigning an integer value here to a long value, it will not throw any error because this will be inside this range only. Okay, similarly the float value you are assigning to a double value and this is between this range, so this is called as an implicit casting. Okay, but always use the proper data type. If it is between this short data type, you have to give it as short. If it is between this integer, you have to give it as integer. Don't assign an integer range value to a long or a short range value to an integer or a float range value to double. Okay, please do not assign like that because this will increase the space in Java memory space. So if only 30,000 is the value, then you can use short itself. If you are assigning an integer, then this space, right? How much it is for integer? What is the size? So here you can see the integer size is 4 bytes. So 4 bytes of space will be occupied in the Java memory. If you are assigning it as short, then only 2 bytes will be occupied, right? So that's memory management will be taken care. So always use properly, but this is a way it will allow. So that they call it as an implicit casting. Okay. So now let's see what is an explicit casting. So what is an explicit casting? Okay. Okay. So now let's typecast an integer value to a short data type. Okay. So let me assign an int int value equal to same 32,000. Let me assign it. Okay. So now let me create a short data type here, sh value something, the variable name, and I am assigning this integer value here. So it is throwing an error, correct? Because an integer cannot be assigned to an short variable. You have to do a typecasting. So add cast. So this is called casting. Okay, explicit casting. So now it will get stored here. This integer value will get stored to this short data type. And now let's print. Let us print this short. Okay, let us print the short value. You can see 32,000 has been printed. But say for example, it has some higher value. Okay, so integer can store till this the range, right? Which I have explained before. Now, if we are storing this integer value using explicit casting, but the range cannot be stored inside this short data type, correct? So now if you run this program, let's see, this 4 5 4 lakhs 50,000 will not get printed. Okay, so there will be a information loss here. So if it is between this short value, short data type range, then it will not have any problem. But if an integer value is with a proper range, and when you are trying to typecast with a short data type, then there will be a information loss. Okay. So similarly, for example, let's see, you have a long variable. Okay, and you are giving some kind of value with literal. So this might be more than the integer data type. Okay, range. And now let's create an integer variable in value equal to, let's assign this long variable, and you have to cast it here also, the same kind of explicit casting you have to do it. Okay, so now it will assign, and let's print this value. Let's print the integer value. Oh, sorry, in value. And now let's run this program, and you can see the information is lost and it is not printing this value. Okay, but if it is something beyond the integer range, say for example 45,000 or 4 lakhs also you can assign, right? 4 lakhs 50,000 is something between this integer range. But now if you run this program, since this long value is false in this integer range, it is printing. Okay, so if some long value which is not inside this integer range, and if you are trying to typecast, then the information will get lost. Okay, so similarly for a float, let's try, we will have a double value. Okay, so double value, and I'm giving some double value here, proper double value. And now let's create a float value and assign this double value to it. To throw an error, and it will ask you to explicit cast. And once after casting, let's print this float value here. So when we print this value, you can see it prints properly, but since it has more precision, okay, that is the fractional part after the decimal point is higher, that is not inside this float range, correct. So those, it will truncate and it will display whatever is available with the float range. So we have around 6 to 7 which we discussed, right. So that value alone it displays, so the precision will get lost if you are trying to typecast double to a float. So this is what we explained it as explicit casting, and this is an feature that, sorry, this is available in Java, but here also developers will not do this one, because as I said, there will be some information loss or some precision loss when you are using a floating type. So this should be avoided when you are writing the program. You have to give a proper so you have to give a proper data type so that the memory management will also be taken care, and you don't, whatever the values that is getting stored to that variable, right, based on that you have to see the size and ranges that I have explained before. Based on that, just give the data type, okay. But these are some options, this implicit and explicit typecasting are also available, so just know about that one. But mainly you have to give the proper data type when you are writing your code, okay. And thanks for watching this video. That's it with the data type.